I was absolutely shocked, not expecting what would come with this game. I thought it would be like some old school medieval Total War knockoff, but I was amazed with what I saw. And don't get me wrong, this is not a perfect game, but this is a great game if you like a very simple and very fun strategy time, well, at least grand strategy time, without needing to learn entire books worth of tutorials. And in this video, we're going to be reviewing Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign and deciding whether it is worth it to buy right now or not. So without further ado, let's just get it started. And as always, as every single one of my videos, I'm going to be giving you the answer right away, and the answer is yes. This game is absolutely worth it, but you need to be prepared and ready to take down your expectation a little bit, because this is not a Total War competitor. This is not another game like Total War. Even though it does feel like it, it's quite a bit different. So you need to be very aware of that. But without details, it does not make any sense. So let's get into the details. So what even is Knights of Honor 2? Knights of Honor 2 is a sequel to, well, Knights of Honor 1, which came out decades ago, and which was the competitor to medieval Total War and Rome Total War back in the day, and I mean the first ones. And this game was very similar in premise as the sequel is. The game is happening in medieval Europe. You can play in 3 different time periods, starting from 11th century and ending in 14th century, but unlike the Total War games, you don't have a year ticker. Basically, when you start the game in a certain year, it just dictates the starting condition of the game and does not tell you and does not dictate how long the game will last, because yeah, time and years do not pass in the game. Because of one very important distinction from Total War games. This game is real time. Yes, both on a map and in battles. And yes, this game has battles as well. If you want to compare what this game feels like a map from Europa Universalis 4, the court and kind of like diplomacy from Crusader Kings 3, of course much more simplified, and overall game mechanics of medieval 2 Total War. But with an important distinction that everything is happening in real time. So practically when you are playing and we are doing nothing, and when you're doing nothing, well, other nations will still continue doing something. Unlike in all the other games that I said, where you need to actually pass the time, or rather, we need to pass the turn to continue, well, action in an entire continent. The territory-wise, game encompasses almost entire Europe, except for very northern territories of Europe, from around England and Portugal to the east, to Middle East to the west. And it also encompasses some territories of the North Africa. And you can play with any nation from these time periods. And yes, as I said, you have 3 different time periods. First one is in 12th century, second one is 13th, and the next one is 14th. I think it's 1110, 1230 or something like that, and 1360. These are the years that you start. And you can choose any nation from these years, and you're choosing all of those nations on the map. You can choose both strong ones and weak ones, and to be fair, it doesn't really matter, because you can actually win the game even with the weakest ones. Not because the game is easy, but because the game is approachable and not as complex for the smaller nations. The entire map is divided into different provinces. And provinces have their own capitals and also smaller settlements. You can directly control only your capital and not the settlements, and the settlements are dictated on the buildings that you build in a capital. You have 8 building slots available in the capital of the province, I mean, and you have only 4 unlocked from the get-go, and you need to unlock other 4, well, while playing the game. Each slot can accompany 1 building, but also can accompany the upgrades of the buildings. And the buildings can range from like barracks, where you can actually upgrade your units and, well, get the more units, to the specialty goods that are available only for the certain provinces. And most of the buildings have also upgrades as well. These are additional sub-buildings that will build, well, above the building itself. And what's pretty cool as well, what I really liked, is that in every single province you need to build all the buildings separately, but if you have built the sub-buildings, the upgrades, you don't need to build upgrades anywhere else. The upgrades will be already built if you build the building. I know I said the building way too many times. The small towns and settlements will also have some garrisons to protect against invaders, and you also put some garrison in the cities as well. Game also have a bunch of different resources, and those resources are very important in the trade power of your country, and also in building of, well, different buildings and also different units. So for example, if you want to build a cavalry, you need a province that have horses in order to, well, build the cavalry. Otherwise, you won't be able to do that. Also, if you want to have some advanced units, you will need to build barracks. Otherwise, you can only hire peasants. Game has a few different resources that you control. It's your money, it's your books, basically knowledge, which is made to upgrade your court members and your kings. You have your religion meter, you have your commerce, you have your food, and you have your army. So rather, how much army you can recruit at a given time. And based on, well, your country's actions, you need to also control the opinions of the different types of people in your country. It will be nobles, it will be army, it will be peasants, it will be merchants and clergy. And you need to keep them happy because otherwise you will suffer pretty severe penalties. You also need to pay attention close to your royal court. And this is where like CK3 type of gameplay creeps in. Royal court is the court of people that will rule your country. Court consists of 9 members including your king. And each court member have their own professions. It can be a marshal, which are the only people who are able to lead an armies, and your king can also be a marshal. It can be a merchant, which will take control of the trades with the different states. It can be your spy, which will build the different spy networks. It will be your diplomat, which will improve diplomatic relationships with other nations. And it will be your cleric, which will spread your religion. Each and every one of them have a different functions, and you need to be very careful which part will be taken by whom in your royal court, because you only have 9 slots there. No more, no less. And each and every one of them can actually be upgraded. King have 5 upgrades, which gives them 3 levels on each upgrade, while others usually have only 5 levels to upgrade, giving 1 level on each upgrade. And each upgrade can affect different parts of the game, like how good they are at battles, or how good they are at negotiations, or how good spies there are, etc, etc. And you need to pay really close attention, because each and every member of the court have their own basic stats, and depending on basic stats, different upgrades will affect them differently. And the probably most important one of those will be marshals, because marshals are only ones that can actually wage wars. Yes, you can build troops in the towns itself, and you can have them, but you cannot move them unless they're led by a marshal or a king, if the king is also marshal by profession. And you have very limited number of units that you can carry, but the amount of people in each unit will vary drastically based on early game, mid game, or late game, based on different upgrades that you can. For example, in some cases there can be only a few hundred people, but in other cases there can be up to 1,000 people in one unit. Wars in this game are very dragged and quite difficult. It's not as easy as steamrolling everything, because your marshals and your soldiers require supplies. You cannot just send them very far away and expect them to do good, because they won't have supplies and they'll probably die. And they also have their morale, so each time they lose in a battle, their morale will go down. The battle itself can be done in 2 different ways. You can either take the control directly, and while you do, this is probably the part that I didn't like about the game, where Total War is absolutely breaking this game out of the water, like destroying this game. It kind of looks like very old school Age of Empires meets Total War kind of battle, and it's not very interesting, at least not after a few times. And of course you can do an auto-resolve battles as well. And auto-resolve is also happening in real time, so basically they are battling with each other, and so you see the enemy units and your units go down. The same can be said on sieges. Sieges can be done in the same way as well, but you cannot immediately attack all the cities, because you need to take down their defenses first. So you need to start actual siege before you can actually attack and take the town and the city. You can also plunder different settlements, and based on what they produce, you can have a resistance or you won't have resistance, and you can get different resources from them. So all of those things sound very complicated when I say it like that, but in reality it's not. The game is much more simpler than any of the games that I said before. It's simpler than EU4, it's simpler than CK3, and it's simpler than Total War games by far, because game has a gradual increase in the speed and the amount of things that is happening around you, and it's not very overwhelming. But because you only have a limited amount of people that you need to take direct control of, it's never becoming very overwhelming. Plus, because you need to pay very close attention to how many soldiers that you have, because if you want, you can actually go with 9 marshals, but this will probably devastate your economy, and if you will lose the soldiers, you will probably not be able to replenish your soldiers as quick as you wanted to. So you need to be very careful in how many soldiers that you have and how many armies that you control. Plus, armies take quite a lot of money to upkeep. Plus, the game looks very simplistic and it's quite easy to run. But is it perfect? Of course not. There are a few things that I didn't like about this game, and probably it's made for the gameplay purposes as well. The one thing that I didn't like is real-time battles. It's okay, it's very, very old school, and not in a good way. It's way too rudimentary and way too simplistic, and after a few times, there will be 2-3 times of battling, you'll probably go and auto-resolve all the battles. That's just how it is. The main meat is on a map, not in a real-time battle. And second thing that I didn't like is the limitation of the combat. In the combat, you can only attack only with 2 marshals, and that's it. Even if you have 5 marshals around, you will be able only observe battles as 2 marshals are attacking either city, or they are, I don't know, sieging the castles. If you have anything else, they can only wait idly until your soldiers will win or lose. Exception is when you're defending your sieges. In this case, you can have additionally a city defenses as well. which makes it a bit more difficult for you as well, because if you are attacking with 2 units, they can actually have 3 different marshals defending the city, which can make it a little more difficult for you. But the upside of the game that I like is an AI, because the AI is quite good. AI is good overall as states, as countries as well, because countries remember all the different things that you do with each other, and it also remembers what you do with other states and how you react and how you act. And if it sees that you are an imperialistic bastard that is trying to overtake everyone, it will treat you like that. It will either try to suck up to you because they don't want to be the next target, or they will try to undermine you as much as they can, despite even telling you that they want to be friends with you. Like, they will even try to create an alliances against you even while they are in royal marriages with you, or while they're in defensive pact with you. That's a very cool thing to have. Plus, they wage wars very, very carefully. Oh, and also it's important that if they want to start a war with you, they usually won't do that unless someone else will start war with you, and then they will join that. Sometimes the nations that are, well, hated by you and they hate you, they sometimes even can join you in a war if they hate your opponent even more, which is pretty cool and gives and makes the game very unpredictable. But is this game worth it price-wise? The game is available on Steam for $45 for the Tier 1 countries and $22 for Tier 2 countries, and can go as low as $30 to Tier 1 and $15 for Tier 2 countries. So game is not exactly full price, but it can be quite expensive for some. So is it worth it for this price? I think it is. This game can give you more than 30 hours of the gameplay easily, and most importantly because the game is quite easy to get into. It's not very intimidating. It's not very simple. Don't get me wrong. It's not very simple. It's quite complex, but it's not difficult unless you want to make it difficult, because if you up the difficulty levels, game is becoming quite difficult. Even on normal difficulty, you cannot simply wage wars all the time, because but the game won't allow you to do that, because you will have constant rebellions, constant uprisings. Merchants will not like it, because merchants do not like when you are constantly at war. Peasants will not like it because they will get killed all the time. Nobles will not like it because, well, nobles will get captured. I mean, the knights and marshals will get captured and killed all the time. They don't like this. It's very complex game if you will get quite deep into it, but it's very easy to get into it. Overall, I really, really like this game, and I spent quite a lot of time playing this. And the only reason why I did not do the review of this game earlier was because I was just way sucked into this game. I had days when I had played 10 hours of this game in a day easy while trying to also upload a YouTube video. So yeah, it's a very, very good game, and it's quite cool. Even though I don't think that it's a real competition against the Total War series or even the Paradox games. It's something same, but a little bit different. And hopefully you will like this a little bit different as well as I did. Well, this is it for today. Thank you for being here with me. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe for more videos like this one. I'm gonna see you in the next one. See ya.